Hello and welcome to Daily Current Affairs by Ekam IAS. Today is 13th September 2019 and the topics for discussion are Utter Ranking of Institutions on Innovation Achievements 2020, Snow Leopard, Exports Promotion Council, Leads Index, Map Aided Program and Previous Year Question Revision Series. Coming to our first topic, which is Utter Ranking of Institutions on Innovation Achievements. Now this is in news because this ranking for 2020 has been published by the Government of India. Now what is this ranking? We'll talk about that. So the Utter Ranking of Institutions on Innovation Achievements, that is ARIA, is basically an initiative of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, that is MHRD. Okay, now this is a ranking whereas there is systematic rank of all major educational institutions in the country. Okay, and these ranking will be based on the indicators which are released by the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development, and this will be among the students and the faculties of the education institutions or the universities in the country. Now ARIA will basically focus on the quality innovations. Understand this, it's a quality innovation ranking and will try to measure the real impact created by the quality innovations nationally and internationally. So all these new technologies through innovation brought up by the universities and the educational institutions in the country, it will be taking in the crux of those things only and will be putting up the ranking for on an all India basis. Now the eligibility criteria for this ranking is that all recognized Indian education institutions are eligible to participate in the ARIA ranking. Okay. Now coming to, we'll talk about the significance of what this ARIA ranking will be. The first of all is that ARIA ranking will inspire Indian institutions to reorient their mindset and build an ecosystem to encourage high quality research, innovation and entrepreneurship. You can understand this since you have studied from any normal an education institution in India. You do see a concept of rote learning, or just study something just to reciprocate that in the examination. So that is why we study in the colleges or in the universities. But no, we don't actually understand the crux behind it. What is the principle behind it? We don't understand the concepts behind it. But here is a ranking which actually takes into account of all of these and therefore put a ranking in an all India basis. Now once a ranking like this comes, it will force or kind of push the mindset of the education institutions to reorient themselves in the way education is given in their institution. So this is a major development if it comes through properly. Other thing is that ARIA will set a tone and direction for institutions for future development, for making them globally competitive in the forefront of innovation. You understand this one more thing with respect to India. The connection between universities and industry is very poor with respect to India. This is very different with respect to other countries or other foreign countries, wherein, let's take for example, subjects like artificial intelligence, cognitive computing, machine learning, things like that are very much in demand in today's world. Right, but how many institutions in India are actually providing these subjects, actually teaching these subjects? It's not many, right? So what the industry actually demands and what is being taught, we are being taught age-old technologies or age-old science which is not of any relevance today. So this is where ARIA ranking will change its perspective from which education is given to the students in the universities and educational institutions. Alright, now we'll talk about the primary focus of ARIA. There are 5 parameters which ARIA will look into. The first one is budget, expenses and revenue generated through innovation and entrepreneurship development. Then comes facilitating access to advanced centers or facilities and entrepreneurial support system. Then comes the idea of entrepreneurship. Fourth is the development of innovation ecosystem supported through teaching and learning. And finally, the best innovative solutions developed in-house for improving governance of one's institution. So this are the 5 parameters which ARIA ranking will be considering. Alright, now coming to our next topic, which is snow leopard, and the scientific name for snow leopard is Panthera uncea. So we'll talk about Panthera uncea, that is the snow leopard. Now this is in news because the snow leopard's cultural codes can help in preventing land degradation in the Himalayan states or Himalayan regions, and this is actually said by the experts studying the snow leopards. Now, we'll talk about the snow leopards. Now, snow leopard is a large cat native to the mountain ranges of Central and South Asia. So, understand the region in which these cats are distributed. It's in Central Asia, South Asia, and that also includes the mountains of Himalayas and Russia's remote mountains called the Altai Mountains, which is situated in Russia. Okay, now snow leopards are currently found only in 12 countries in the world. And out of these 12 countries, India is also a part of these 12 countries. In India, snow leopards can be mostly found in the Western Himalayan region and also in the Eastern Himalayan region. So, in the Western Himalayan states, for example, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. In these states, we can find the snow leopards, and the Eastern Himalayan region, we find it in Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. So, it is in these regions where we find the snow leopard. Now, the region in the Eastern Himalayas, that is the Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, it's a priority region for the Worldwide Foundation, and it is also there for the Living Himalayas Network Initiative. So, these two organizations are actually concentrating a lot on the Eastern Himalayan region, and studying about snow leopards can also help in the revival of the degradation that is currently happening with respect to the Eastern Himalayan region. Now, coming back to snow leopards actually prefer, with respect to their habitation, they actually prefer steep, rugged terrains with rocky outcrops and ravines. So, they actually live in a very dangerous, dangerous to human kind of location, and they thrive in such areas. So, studying about their population or things like that can also give an idea about the topography of that region. If there is too much of erosion, the steepness of a region will come down, right? Then in such a region, snow leopards will not want to stay in that region. So, like that, periodic change through decades, if we study about these snow leopards, we can come to know the topographical changes that has happened in a region, and also once we study about the topographical changes, we can also predict where snow leopards are found. So, such interconnections are also possible. Okay, now we will come to the status of these animals. Now, the snow leopard actually, with respect to IUCN Red List, is listed as a vulnerable species. Okay. Then comes the snow leopard is also listed in the Appendix 1 of the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. And with respect to India, the snow leopard has been listed in the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So, keep these 3 points in your mind. With respect to IUCN Red List, it is vulnerable. With respect to CITES, it is put in the Appendix 1, wherein trade in this animal is prohibited. And finally, with respect to our Indian case, we're considering the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, this animal, that is the snow leopard, has been placed under Schedule 1 of this act. Okay. Now we'll talk about the snow leopard in India. Now, the government of India has actually identified the snow leopard as a flagship species for the high altitude region. You understand this thing called flagship species. With respect to jungles and all, for example, if you take a normal forest, tigers usually are the flagship species, the most apex predator. So, once you take care of the apex predator, all the other species below it, all the other species, coming under the apex predator are also automatically taken care of. Because the number of apex predators are going to be lower in number, and the other species are going to be higher in number. So, if you want to conserve a total region or a total ecosystem, go for the most apex species, apex predator species in that region, and once conservation of that species is taken care of, all of the other species and ecosystem will fall in place. So, like that, for Himalayan region and high altitude region, the Indian government has actually identified the snow leopard as the apex predator, or in other words, it's actually tagged it as the flagship species. Okay, now it has developed a centrally sponsored program called Project Snow Tiger, Snow Leopard. Just like our Project Tiger, Indian government has actually started Project Snow Leopard. Okay, now this is for the conservation of the species, that is conservation of snow leopard, and for the conservation of its habitats and other regions that it is going through. You understand one thing, the Project Tiger initiative of Government of India has actually been very successful. India is one of the few countries wherein the population of tigers has actually increased almost to the double level. Some may say actually it has come to double levels also. So India has been very well successful with respect to doubling the population of the tigers. So such an initiative has been taken with respect to projects, the snow leopards also. So let's see in the future that this project also will be successful. Now we'll talk about Project Snow Leopard. Now it was launched in 2009 to safeguard and conserve the snow leopard and its habitat by promoting conservation through participatory policies and participatory actions. So everyone, all the stakeholders will participate together for the conservation and protection of the snow leopard. Okay, now coming to our next topic, which is the Export Promotion Councils. Now this is in news because if you've read the newspaper today, the Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, the Union Minister of Railways has also met with many other stakeholders, which is people in the Board of Trade, Agricultural Ministers, etc., and have also talked with the Export Promotion Councils in the country for actually addressing the issue of boosting exports and improving competitiveness of domestic manufacturing. Basically speaking, how do we increase the export with respect to the domestically manufactured products internationally? This is the main aim of this topic that we're going to discuss today, and that is why we have Export Promotion Councils. Okay, so we'll talk about them. Currently in India, there are 14 Export Promotion Councils. Now these are under the administrative control of Department of Commerce. Okay, now these councils are registered actually as non-profit organizations under the Companies Act or Societies Registration Act. Now the councils perform both advisory and executive functions, and these councils are also the registering authorities for exporters under the Foreign Trade Policy of 2009 to 14. Now the Federation of Indian Export Organization is the apex organization for all Export Promotion Council in India. Now the Ministry of MSME, that is Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises, has recently established an export promotion cell within itself, and the export promotion cell under MSME Ministry has the aim to create a sustainable ecosystem for entire MSME development. So basically, all the micro, small, medium enterprises that is developing their project, their products, these products should be marketed internationally. That is why MSME Ministry had come up with a export promotion cell within their ministry. Okay, now we'll come to the objectives of this Export Promotion Councils of MSME. Now it is to evaluate readiness of MSMEs to export their product and services. Then it is to recognize areas that can be improved to export effectively. Then integration of MSME into global value chain. The target for this is $100 billion for exports by India by 2020. And finally, coordinate with other departments and export promotion councils for increasing their shipments. Alright, now coming to the next topic, which is Leads Index. Now this is also related to the topic that we just discussed below, above us right now. Basically, the Union Minister of Commerce and Industry and Railways had come up together, set up a meeting with the Board of Trade members for the inaugural session of the Leads Index of 2019. Now this Leads Index was released by the Commerce and Industry Ministry. Okay, fine. We'll talk about the Leads Index. Now the Leads Index is basically an effort by the Commerce and Industry Ministry to establish the baseline performance in the logistics sector based on the perception of users and stakeholders at the state level. Understand this much, Leads Index is developed released by the Commerce and Industry Ministry, and it is based on the logistics sector. You need to understand that much. Okay, this is not an index with respect to the performance of the state government, but may be used to assess the the status of the logistic efficiency in each state. This is not a performance ranking, but it can be used to assess with what level a state is standing at the moment. Now the top ranking state within the logistics sector is Gujarat. Now following Gujarat is Punjab, and then the third is in Andhra Pradesh. Among hilly eastern states, the first one is Tripura, and among union territories, it is Chandigarh. Okay. Now, coming to the map aided program, today we will be discussing about the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. Now, Sahyadri Tiger Reserve, is a tiger reserve located in Maharashtra. Okay. Now, the location, as you can see here, is in the Sahyadri ranges of the western Ghats of Maharashtra. It actually encompasses 4 districts. Now, the 4 districts are Satara, Sangli, Kolhapur, and Ratnagiri. These are the 4 districts within which the Sahyadri Tiger Reserves is situated. Now, this tiger reserve was created by the Indian government in 2008, and the reserve actually spreads over the Konya Wildlife Sanctuary in the northern portion and the Chandoli National Park in the southern portion. Okay. Now, recently also, this tiger reserve was extended into a small region of the Ratnagiri Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay. Now, coming to the previous year question revision series. Today's question, I'll read it out for you. Now, the formation of ozone in the Antarctic region has been a cause of concern. What could be the reason for the formation of this hole? Basically, the question is, what caused the formation of an ozone hole over the Antarctic continent? Now, the first option being presence of prominent tropospheric turbulence and inflow of chlorofluorocarbons. B, presence of prominent polar front and stratospheric clouds and inflow of chlorofluorocarbons. Third, that is C, is absence of polar front and stratospheric clouds and inflow of methane and chlorofluorocarbons. And finally, D, we have increased temperature at polar region due to global warming. Understand this question. You need to read all the options very carefully. Use your mind a little bit. If you're careful with respect to such questions, you will be able to hit this question. So understand here. So first thing here, what they're asking is, why is there an ozone hole? Okay. Once you apply your mind, they're asking the question with respect to ozone hole, you can already eliminate the fourth option, which is D, increase in temperature at polar region. Increasing in temperature in the polar region is due to global warming, but here the question they are asking is with respect to ozone hole. So there itself, there are 2 different entities. You can eliminate option D. Now we are left with 3 options, which is A, B, and C. Okay. We go to the third option, which is C here. Here they are saying absence of polar front and stratospheric clouds with the inflow of methane and chlorofluorocarbons. Understand, for this, ozone to be disrupted, these chlorofluorocarbons actually are funneled through, these stratospheric clouds and with the presence of a polar front. So there only you can eliminate C, because they are saying absence of both of them. And finally, here we'll come to the first option A, the presence of prominent tropospheric turbulence. Now, if there is turbulence, the proper channeling of chlorofluorocarbons will not happen, and therefore we can eliminate A also. And finally, we are left with the option B, which is the correct answer for this question. It is presence of prominent polar front and stratospheric clouds. I'll make you understand this option a little bit more clearly. When you consider the Earth, and when there are many, gases flying around in the atmosphere of the Earth, during winters what happens is, there is a strong polar front created around the Antarctic continent. Now, by winter, what happens is, after the formation of the polar front, the chlorofluorocarbons has actually come inside the polar front, and once it is inside the polar front, it also contains the chlorofluorocarbon gases, and it stays there for the entire winter period. And in that stratospheric region is where ozone actually exists. And once chlorofluorocarbons have actually entered that region, the entire winter duration, it slowly degrades the ozone which is there in that region, and finally which leads to thinning of the ozone, which we call as the ozone hole. So therefore, as I told you before, the answer for this question is option B. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you have any doubts or queries, you can write down in the comment section below.